far you have come on your own, but never alone. Through the rain and through the shine, here's your moment, it's your time. You stood tall and now you see, standing in your destiny. 100 women growing strong. 100 women where you belong. You stood tall and now you see, you have reached your destiny. Woman, woman.
As people of African descent, we offer this land recognition in solidarity with the indigenous peoples of Turtle Island in the efforts and deliberate intentions toward decolonization. As people of African descent, we acknowledge the land of Turtle Island that sustains us, express deep gratitude to its indigenous peoples, and pledge to honor our dignity and divinity that ultimately connects us all. By Kay Johnson. Welcome to 100 ABC Fireside Chats. 100 Accomplished Black Canadian Women is a bold project initiated by co-authors and co-founders, the Honorable Dr. Jean Augustine, Dr. Denise O'Neill Green, and Donna Jones Simmons. Our mission is to celebrate and archive the professional accomplishments of trailblazing Black women from all across Canada. The goal is to create an ever-expanding database available for current and future generations via print media, public and private libraries, as well as our website, which is www.100abcwomen.ca. In addition to our fireside chats on topics that matter to our communities, such as education, healthcare, entertainment, creative arts, trade union, and so much more, we offer biennial book launching galas and biannual symposiums. The co-authors and co-founders would like to take this opportunity to thank each of you for attending today's fireside chat. We know that you will find these sessions educational and inspirational. So sit back, relax, and hear from our brilliant and talented honorees.
Welcome to 100 ABC Women Fireside Chats. I'm Sarah Onyango. I'm one of your regular moderators, and I'm also a 2018 honoree of 100 Accomplished Black Canadian Women. Today, we are going to talk money, one of my favorite topics. We are going to be talking about tips on building your own business and becoming more business savvy. Did you know that 1 in 3 Black Canadians lives in a household struggling to meet basic financial needs? Did you know that on average, Black Canadians earn $3.92 an hour less than non-visible minorities? And it's a wonder that so many of us have decided to basically become our own employers as a result, whether full-time or part-time. So we have a wonderful group of panelists with whom we're going to talk strategies, ownership, and solutions. Olaitan Onyeboha, Carol Commission, Kayla Stevenson, June Francis, and Moy Fung. Carol Commission is a retired former chief financial officer for IBM, Caribbean North District, with many years of success in financial management and leadership in both for-profit and not-for-profit organizations. And she's currently a director on the board of the Catholic Children's Aid Society and a member of their finance community. I'll let her fill in more blanks of her bio later. Olaitan Onyeboha is the director and founder of Seventh Laurel Immigration, which is a Black female-led immigration consulting firm based in New Brunswick. She immigrated to Canada from Nigeria in 2014 as an international student, and you're going to hear later why that part of her bio is important in terms of what she does to empower newcomer entrepreneurs. June Francis is co-founder and co-laboratorio Collab Advantage Limited. She's director of the Institute for Black and African Diaspora Research and Engagement, co-founder of the Black Caucus at Simon Fraser University, and very importantly, a professor in the BD School of Business. Moy Fung is a certified business coach and entrepreneur with a passion for life, people, and business. She has presented a number of workshops on coaching strategies. She's done speaking engagements, and she has published work, including The Entrepreneur's Success is a Journey, The Entrepreneur's Handbook, and Success is a Journey for Startups. Moy is 2024 100 Accomplished Black Canadian Women honoree, as is June, as is Olaitan, and Carol is a 2022 honorees. Welcome to the conversation. So I have one general question I'm going to throw out there to start the conversation. For those of you who did start your own business, what motivated you to do so? Moy, do you want to start?
Thank you so much. Looking for that mute button can be a feat.
I know.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Sarah, for your excellent moderation so far. And of course, 100 ABC Women and all you fine panelists that are on the call. Thank you for joining me. And I know I will certainly learn something from each of you today. What made me start? I think it's the very topic that we're here, why we're here today, is I really wanted to take my personal economy into my own hands. I had been a single mother at the time when I started, which is over 20 years ago. I was struggling to make ends meet, and that's really how it started. I'm trying to be not too long-winded, very succinct, but really it was to take control of my own personal economy.
June?
Yes, I will talk about two different ones quickly. One is the first time I was an entrepreneur was in 1986. And that's how I bought my house. To be quite honest, I don't know how else I live in this expensive Vancouver city. And it was an opportunity. It was something, Expo 86 was coming, and we saw a lot of people come in here, and I was teaching. I was when I first started my academic career. I wasn't quite a professor yet. And I told people about, I used to teach people this stuff. And I thought, well, why aren't you doing it? And so we did. It worked. My more recent sojourns came out of a need I saw that it kind of came to me around consulting. A lot of businesses were coming to me and asking me and my colleague, Christina Hendricks, who I work with. And eventually I realized that I should stop giving, my husband used to call me the queen of free. And we should stop giving this away for free. And so it was born, my consulting firm, to address a specific need we had out here.
Great. Carol, I know you have spent pretty much most of your business career in the corporate world, so it wasn't your own business per se.
No, well, thank you, Sarah, and thanks to my co-panelists. It's a privilege to be here today, and I'm looking forward to learning from you too, also. Yes, I did not start my own business, but at the end of the day, yes, I did, because listening to June, and even more, you have to manage your own business, your own home, your own monies. You have to do that. So even though I did not start a business, I was too busy in corporate land. You work 24/7. I still manage me so that when I retire, I have those funds that we need to live without working. So while I didn't have my own business, I did. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Listen, Me Inc. is the most important business you ever
Correct.
have, right?
Correct.
Olaitan.
Like, sorry, I was still struggling with the microphone myself too. Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity to come back here. And it's nice to see you again, Maury. Thank you for the opportunity to connect with Carol and Dr. June Francis. I think we have this family legacy because I know my late father, when he was in 95 as a telecommunications engineer, he was also building something along the line when he founded his first business that was helping Nigeria then to work around what we call PABX, telecoms and all of that. And it was one of those that was also seconded to build some spaces in Kanji Dam then before, he also moved to London where he built his first transistor around the Turing station, which he later brought back, to Nigeria. And then my mom, she literally named her first business after me, one of my name, and growing up, I was always curious. I love to go to the shop. I love to see things, but I never saw myself running a business until I must have gone through the corporate like my dad and then start something around 45, But I found myself moving into Canada and making all kind of mistakes, leaving the known for the unknown with young children, age 4 and 2, in an intensive MBA program, a 2-year program already condensed into one. And I had 2 young children with me. We literally planned funding wise, but you don't know what you don't know. It eventually led us to certain mistakes. I became so miserable, no family. And while I was doing that, friends were literally calling me, how did you get there? I need to know, show me this and all of that. And I kept on showing, I kept on making sure that they didn't make the same mistake. And someone, a Canadian, reached out to me and said, you're doing this effortlessly. Like you're so excited about doing it. Why can't you just tie something around commercial, around this? I was like, no, I really want to get my permanent. I didn't want to stay actually in Canada. I wanted to just come for my MBA and go back to corporate, because the equity for you as a foreign trained person is higher. But the kids already loved it here. By the time we were ready to leave, the oldest one was 5. And they were like, Dad, we want to stay if mommy stays. So that's why I stayed. And I wanted my PR if I'm staying. And somebody's telling me to come and start a business as a foreigner. I don't know what you're talking about. But I literally took that as an opportunity. And I did incorporate register my first business as a temporary resident a year after I graduated. That was how that journey started. So Seventh Laurel we see today is not an actual journey where I actually started.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about, the progression, sustainability, and things like that. So I see a common thread, an opportunity presented itself. Necessity sort of drove me to that path, and monetizing one's expertise, specialty. Someone else saw that and encouraged me to do it. So yeah, there are different reasons that lead people to that path. So let's get into sort of the nitty-gritty. What are the key steps in establishing a business? And then what are some of the challenges and the pitfalls that you can meet along the way? Who wants to start? Because I know all of you could answer this. But
I can share my piece of
yes,
information.
would
So
you?
key steps first and foremost, again, it's really first starting off with your why. You know, why am I getting into business? So as I mentioned to you earlier, that for me it was I was driven by initially just the need to take my own personal economy into my own hands. I realized at the time I was on maternity leave, I was getting very limited income.
Mhm.
I knew that if I had not done this, I don't know what else I would have done. And so what I did after having that need was I realized also that there was a need, you know, within the community that I was living in. At the time my first son, which is over, sorry, my second son, after I had my second son, I had realized that many individuals were in need of babysitters, right? So that was kind of actually my second business, but it's a lot because I've done a lot. So when I started babysitting. I started babysitting in my building. I created my own Microsoft Word document flyer because now we have Canva and we have all those fancy stuff now that we can just drag and drop. At the time, it was Microsoft Word. So using Microsoft Word, I created my own flyers, put my text, put my images, and said that I was available. I was already on maternity leave, so I needed something to supplement my income. With that being said, within a very short space of time, I think I had about 3 or 4 children. Now, being the entrepreneur that I am, I needed to get creative because I didn't want to be that entrepreneur or that babysitter, because I didn't see myself that way. I didn't want to be that person who you drop your children off, they stay in the house for the entire day, right? And they wouldn't do much with them. And their parents would pick them up, they drop them off, pick them up at the end of the evening. So what I did was I created a program. For what I was seeing in the low income environment, for what I was seeing, I created a program which included taking them outside for outdoor play, teaching them some academic, um, teaching them, and they were very young kids too. So it was very basic stuff, but it was keeping them engaged from a mental standpoint. And then from there, that babysitting thing didn't last very long, but what that did was that propelled me to start a summer program for children and for families who were within the low income brackets. That was my story as well. And so I wanted to help these families who were having a hard time financially. I wanted to help them to broaden their horizons, you know, broaden the children's horizons. So these summer programs, I'd run them out of the churches, I'd partner with some of the Catholic schools, and we'd run them out of the schools and we would take them on trips to the university so that they can see themselves, right? So they can have a vision. Many of them don't have a vision for themselves in that way.
But Moy,
Yes,
did you already have a sort of plan? That's what I'm getting at. Like
yes.
what are the steps you go through? The first thing you did was identify a need.
Yes, exactly. And
Yeah.
so, I'm sorry if I'm long-winded.
No,
So
that's
that
okay.
was the
That's
thing.
okay.
So and there could be multiple needs, right? So
Yes.
I think that's what I was trying to get at. So my
Yeah.
personal economy was the first need. I needed money first and
Mm-hmm.
foremost,
Mm-hmm.
but I was never that person to just go after money. And so that social need was certainly there. And so with that social need, I created this summer program, Stars Youth International. Well, it's still going on today under the umbrella of my not-for-profit, which is Solid Rock Family Services. And so ultimately, it's really identifying, I'll go back to your question, Sarah, identifying that need of why you're doing what you're doing. And I'm going to say, without being much more longer, a business plan is so essential because one of the mistakes that I made, and I made this several times, was to dive in to doing whatever it is that I was wanting to do without proper planning. And that can be an issue. You know, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Many of us know that. And so the business plan, I'm such a big proponent of, listen, plan your business, sit down, and it doesn't have to be this big drawn out plan either. It could literally just be a one pager. It could literally be about, okay, what is my business? What do I offer? You know, who's my target audience? How much money do I plan to make from this? And what is that niche? What is that niche that I bring to the market? I think that just starting with that is very important because what you'll find, and I'll end here, what you'll find is that oftentimes when we start in business, if we don't have a proper plan, we end up going
Yeah.
in a different
Carol,
direction.
thanks for that, Moy. Carol,
No
would you
problem.
like to pick up on that since you've been in corporate and advised people, provided financial advice?
Yes, so picking up on having a vision, I think you got to go beyond the seed in terms of thinking strategically. What's the vision? Where do you want to go in the next 5 years? How do you want to get there? Do you understand financial management? Do you understand the laws around what you're trying to do? Do you understand your competition? Do you have strong networking skills so you could develop that business and sustain it so that all of us want to grow the business, not just, I make $5, I eat $5 and that's it. So sustainability is important. Growth is very important. So understand the environment, understand the laws, understand the best way to go about it. I think all those are key factors. And you are going to fall. And don't be afraid to leverage. Don't be afraid to have a loan to get you there, but you have to have a plan. How am I going to pay it back? Don't be afraid to have the tough conversations with the bank or with anybody. Understand what you're getting into. And as I said, networking is big in terms of being successful.
Thanks for that, Carol. June, you've advised people who wanted, yeah.
Well, even from my own experience and advising people, two big mistakes in addition. So much has been said, I don't want to repeat that, but I'll add these two things. One is, I think people underestimate competition. They have a skill, right? Sometimes, and they just feel, okay, I have the skill or I have this product and I can sell it, but never look to see who else is doing that or in what other way is this thing being satisfied. So that, forgetting that people only have so much money or income, let's say, and they can only spend so much on that category. So whatever it is, you may have a fabulous product, but not looking how you compare, right, to this. So pricing and things like that. What's the right level? The other mistake people have is they price wrong. And you can price wrong in two ways. One is you can price too low. And you start off too low and people peg psychologically your value to that. And then now you have to kind of adjust the price upwards. When you look at your costs, something that Moy just said and Carol said, you have to have your costs figured out in your business plan. Because if you don't have that, then you don't know how your revenue is going to flow. So you end up making some mistakes at the beginning, and then these are the hard to recover from kinds of things. And pricing is actually one where people don't forgive you so much. So you give a price and then next week you come back and you say, oh, it has to go up. And they forever think that you have raised the price. And I think perseverance, I think if you start in a business, it's not a fly-by-night thing, right? You will fail along the way, right? So we tend to advise people to fail fast because you're going to fail. Right? Don't take a year to fail. Fail quickly so you can recover. So we tell you fail fast so we can keep going, right? Because then you can recover, you learn from it, and you keep going. And don't burn up all your money too quickly. So think of ways that you can, learn, see if there's really develop your business before you start burning up that money.
Yeah, thanks for that, June. So, Olaitan, you're in a specific situation where you help immigrants and newcomers. So when somebody comes to you with a business idea, like what do you usually advise them to do?
Yeah, so thank you so much. I'm just going to summarize on what over the years I have come up with as my 1 dozen, and dozen is like 12 idea. And this was something that I reflected and drew lessons and inferences from in my work with as the founder of the Black Business and Professional Network in New Brunswick that I've successfully managed and handed over to the next leadership that took effect in April. And along the line, we worked with BBPA, we worked with a lot of Black-led organizations in our region. But the most visible and impactful one that we did was with Dr. Grant of Carlton under the Black Entrepreneurship Knowledge Hub, where we literally worked to understand some of the challenges of the Black women. You know, they had the research on the Black men, but typically because I started BBPN because of the struggle that I had, you know, as a non-for-profit. And it also extends to me as being a lived experience, like a persona that we had worked around. So the research we did in 2024, October, working with some researchers from St. Mary's University, Dr. Avi Miller and all of that, I came up with these 12 processes because we had to get people to come into a room. There was a focus group conversation, interviews, and all of that. So based on that information, and that's how I use it now in my immigration practice. So one of the things that Moy said was, you know, clarifying your why, which I call purpose. Number 2 is research. Number 3 is audience. Know your target audience, know your target market. And that's what June said. It helps you to know what are their buying powers. If these people are my target audience, who is that client that will bring, who is that 20%, the Pareto rule, that will bring the 80% revenue that my business need? And who are those 80% that constitute 20% to my bottom line? So you begin to know that through the audience size, and then you create a structure, you know. And with that structure, you want to ask yourself, am I going into self-employment, self-employed startup of sole proprietorship, or you want to do partnership? You want to do LLC, like corporation, or you want to do joint venture, which could be on either spectrum. You also want to talk about finance, right? How do I manage my money? How much am I charging? What are my overhead? The sixth one is the legal, because you also want to know if I'm going the route of sole proprietorship, what do I need? Like my assets and everything is in picture if I ever go into a litigation route. And if I don't want to do that, what do I do? You think about insurance, right? For professional liability and all of that. That's where the aspect of legal come in. If you can't do it all, engage somebody like a legal practitioner. Number 7 is your branding, your identity. You can't be on a social media and be using your business page to be chasing people, to be chasing clouds, to be doing things like that. So some of those things comes under what your branding is going to look like. What message do you carry? Number 8 is your presence. What are the online platforms you want to talk about? Then it ties into marketing, which is number 9. And I also have what we call system. How do we build from building to scaling to navigation and sustaining the brand? Number 11, mentorship, going out there, connecting with people, finding your tribe. And number 12, staying compliant, which is the updates, making sure your business doesn't stay in the era of 1970. And what are the legal compliances? So that's the 12, my dozen conversation that I always have with people.
Okay, Olaitan, you're gonna have to drop all of that in the chat, and we need to post it on the 100 ABC website, because that is just gold right there. You pretty much sort of summarized generally, you know, what successful entrepreneurs need to know. So I'm gonna go back to Carol, because you have an interest in things like, you know, the legal setup, compliance, rules, and governance. And I'm going to ask each of you, I'm going to ask June as well and Moy as well, about governance when it comes to whether it's social enterprises or an organization you've started. You started one, Moy, and June also is part of one. What are your thoughts on that and the weight that that should have?
So thank you for that, Sarah. I just want to reflect on one thing, going back to the comments made, the 12 steps there. Another big point to me, and I think June's also said it, is integrity. Integrity is huge.
That's the branding part.
That right. Integrity is huge. So that brings us into good governance, means obeying the rules, understanding them, and obeying them, putting the processes in place so that you could be efficient, effective, productive, all of those things, at the same time complying with the rules of the game, meaning legally and otherwise. Understand your risks. Don't be afraid to partner with people continuous learning. You're continuously learning about the business, about the rules, about your people. Good governance means the organization runs and it's running within the guidelines of the laws of the land, if you want to call it that, paying your taxes, all those things. So people hate that part of it. You just want to market and so, but that is key in terms of sustainability. It gives you an opportunity to deal with your funders, your clients. They know what you stand for. They respect you, your employees, all of that, good governance, all of that to sustain your business.
Thanks, Carol. June?
I really completely appreciate what you have to say, Carol, about, I mean, if you don't follow all of those things, you might find that you're in jeopardy very early, just lack of compliance.
Right.
So in terms of making sure all those things are followed, that becomes, it can be as small as health regulations you ignored, and then something happens, and now your whole reputation is in tatters. So reputation for a small business person and integrity is everything, right? So your word becomes the brand in many ways. And so if you're not following up and making sure everything is sorted out that way, you could lose your reputation over one slip up very quickly. I think it's also important to think carefully about, let's say you're a social enterprise or you're a nonprofit. Who is going to sit on your governance board? One of the most critical pieces of information I can give you is to not assume that the person who is the richest or have the most connections or is the right fit for you. You have to ensure they share your vision and your values, and they value what you do. What you don't want are people who are either putting it on, I'm just going to help you for my own ego, or I'm going to help you because, I'm going to put it on a resume, or a range, or the white saviors can be another problem. I'm a white savior and I'm going to tell you what to do. Right? Because I have had this big business. They don't understand your values. They don't value you, and they don't understand what you're trying to do. So getting people who bring something, are committed to what you're doing, follow through, right? Do what they say they're going to do, but make sure they know what your values are, what your vision is, and you don't vary from that. That's because all of a sudden you can find yourself going in a different direction. The other thing I think in terms of governance is to really guard your intellectual property, okay? You have a concept, an idea, a brand, a product, whatever it is. That is your intellectual property that you bring to the table. It has secrets. Just so you know, some of it is secrets. Some of it you don't tell everybody. You don't chat and everybody meet you telling them everything about your product and knowing when to tell people. Because I have seen these ideas go sideways because you've told too many people. Somebody else does it fly by night, and now you no longer hold on to that very precious idea that you have been nurturing. So I think these issues about governance and managing the people you work with and who are going to govern, and also what it is you govern and protect. If you don't keep things as a secret, in law, they're not a secret. So some things need to be held on to.
Yeah, thanks for that, June. That's, the reputational risk, people stealing ideas. We've seen a lot of that in our community. And often I hear people saying, I'm thinking of, but don't tell anybody because I only want it out there when I'm actually doing it, right? So, Moy, you were talking about how that service that the program that you have, it's not the same today as it was yesterday. Can you tell us about what has changed in terms of how you would start your business and market it and brand it
Okay,
from
so
what you've seen?
are you speaking of the initial how when I first started my business? Because I've done a ton of things since then. I've
Okay,
started many multiple brands since then. So I'm not
but is there like a common thread in terms of how things have changed, the environment, the way you go
absolutely.
about it? Yes? Can you tell us
Yes,
about that?
absolutely. Yes, absolutely. So when I first started in entrepreneurship, I always tell people that I didn't even know there was a word called entrepreneurship, and that's the truth. And so I made a lot of mistakes because we didn't have the wonderful coaches and experts that we see today, even some of you sitting on this platform. And so many of what I learned was just, I would ask questions. There were certain nonprofit organizations that were offering. I don't know if you've heard of Microskills. Microskills was one of those organizations back in the day that was offering business development for women. I was a part of that programming at some point. But yeah, I mean, it was much more difficult back in the day. We didn't have technology as it's evolved now, where we have social media. We can, market through social media. We can, there's the word of mouth, of course, but then there's AI. I mean, we can build scripts in like seconds, right? We can get marketing advice like within just a few short minutes, right? And so things have certainly changed. Um, and of course, that has helped us even in terms of how we do business today. I would hope that most of us are more effective in the way that we do business, only because the technology and the information that we have at hand and the access to expert that we have at hand is not like it was 20 years ago when I first started, right? One of the things that I will mention, just in addition to all the wonderful things that you all have mentioned, and I think there's some sort of underlying messaging, personal leadership, because you hear about the integrity. Personal leadership is something that I'm very big on. It's something that I coach people on. I believe that if you're not able to even lead yourself and have that integrity, honesty, trust, then at the end of the day, the business that you're going to build and lead, it's going to follow just who you are, right? And I think even as we talk about the whole governance thing, it may not be on a nonprofit level. It could be um, I believe every business needs a sense of governance. Every business needs a group of advisors that they can go to, they can ask for insight, because oftentimes the business that we build it to serve communities, serve organizations, serve societies, and then it becomes about us, right? And so we lack direction, we lack vision, we lack focus even, and that's where the board of either directors or the advisors would come in to help to direct us and to keep us on board. It's ultimately accountability, right? And so I'll leave that there, and I hope I've answered your question.
Yeah, in a way, yes, you have, but we'll come
Jeez.
back.
Could I comment on
Yes,
that?
sure, sure.
I just want to elaborate also on the trust thing.
Mm-hmm.
Trust is huge. Plus, June said something. Understand the gaps of skills in your organization. Understand the gaps. So I'm not bringing somebody on because he's my friend or because he's nice. Does he meet that gap in the organization? Does he have that skill to move the organization? So that should be how you should be guided. The other key point is empowering your people, giving them, training them, empowering them, and getting them to help you as a team to bring that business along and grow that business versus you just thinking, well, this is my idea. No, share, work together. The team is stronger than just one head.
Thank you very much for that, Carol. Very, very solid, solid points. Because unfortunately, we have seen in our community where, you sort of question, well, why is so-and-so the accountant? They're not good at this. What are they doing there? Well, it's the sister-in-law of whoever and whoever.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, that's something we have to struggle with. So, Olaitan, Lately there's been a lot of I know here in the National Capital Region, there's a very strong emphasis on newcomer entrepreneurship. What are some of the typical barriers they face? This is now the part of the conversation when we talk about the barriers and how to overcome them. And some you've sort of alluded to some, but now we're going to specifically get into it. So Lighton, for newcomer immigrant would-be entrepreneurs.
Yeah, so for me, I think we need to look at it from two perspectives of who are the immigrants and what fraction do they take when it comes to the description of economic immigrants versus refugee and settlement immigrants. So when we're looking at the economic immigrants that oftentimes the decision for an immigration officer to say, yes, you're eligible to come to Canada versus no, we're refusing your application because of the purpose of your visit. We're looking at the express entry that looks into getting people to come to Canada to come and occupy the workplace role, quote and unquote, to work to meet certain workplace needs that certain people are not qualified, for, or because aging population is making the need and the demand for such economic immigrants to come in. That's on one side. On the other hand, we're looking at refugee settlements that oftentimes goes on to becoming a work permit holder and permanent residents and Canadian coming now back into the economic funnel. If you look at majority of immigrants coming in, they're coming in under that express entry route. And if they're not coming in under the express entry route, they're coming in under what we call startup visa or, the business ownership, or it could even be entertainment and all of that. And here is the thing. You have a purpose to come in and find a job and start working. So getting them into the whole entrepreneurship is not that's not what they're coming for. Because you have an average immigrant that says, I'm coming in, you already showed the government of Canada that you have a proof of fund to support you over the next couple of months, which could be like 6 months and all of that. And I need to be able to find a job immediately so that that purse doesn't get emptied, right? So their focus now is not for jobs. But this is where it becomes interesting and the area where we encourage and we keep on encouraging the policymaker to look into what knowledge some of these people bring from their country that could make the opportunity to be opened up. Because when you look at such people, they don't have that opportunity. They've not done businesses before. They need to be retrained to understand how to write a business plan, how to do all of these things. And trust me, the other communities like the Asians, the big communities that are already big on supporting and collaborating amongst themselves. I keep on using the word collaboration because I feel like our Black community, we're not collaborative to a certain extent. I'm sorry I have to say this, but that is the real thing. You have an idea, somebody you're talking, and I appreciate what John said around people and intellectual property. Myself, I experienced something recently. I saw a post 3 days ago. That was my idea that I discussed with someone when I was still working in my co-op. Just help me read through this. The same name, the same wording. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is like, it brought me to that point where I was like, oh my goodness, what are we doing to ourselves? So now what am I saying? What I'm saying is that our community, we need to do better in terms of seeing ourselves as ally, not competition. Like I said before this session started, international trade, Ricardo came about countries should specialize in areas where they have these strategic, competencies. I may be great on immigration or marketing. I have Moy there. I've even reached out to Moy at one point because I know I'm still going to be working with her. She has that. I don't have to chase that. Now, our own struggle, I'm bringing it down to quickly just round up. In the Black community, we're not collaborative to the extent of wanting to share information with ourselves. You know somebody, you've gone through this path before, you've gotten money from there. What is keeping you from sharing it with a sister, with a brother to say, hey, this was my journey, let me handhold you? Because when we're up there flying in mass, it makes the conversation stronger. People will take us seriously. The government will take us seriously. All these struggles will not be there. And that's why, like I said, bringing it back home, what am I doing in my community? I'm not just going to sit on the fence and keep complaining. I am building the ecosystem of women. And that's what, like, just recently, I got a funding from FACE. And the goal was, instead of me taking that money to pay myself, I want to use it to train another person. The person started this June. I want to have women in this space where we can do more for ourselves. We get trained, you become an RCIC, and then we keep growing. If you've seen the movie Suits, like where you have a lot of corporate legal guys, they're in the same space and all of that, that's my vision of what I want to do. And that's how we need to do it as a Black community. Let's see ourselves as sisters, as brothers. Some people might have failed before. Well, you try to guide your intellectual property and still carry people along to the extent to which they want to be carried. Because some, again, you might want to try, some people don't want to be carried anyways. But lack of information is one of the things, and people not willing to really go out all the way to support another person.
So that's two interesting, somewhat contrasting, guarding your intellectual property, your ideas, etc., but also collaborating strategically as well. June, the barriers that Black women especially face when they're trying to set up their own businesses. What have you seen?
Yes, a lot. A lot. For one thing, let me just start at the home. Sometimes because of patriarchal, I'll call it, situations, the woman is seeing, despite her trying to start a business, is also seen as the person who has it's a time strap sometimes, because they have to look after the children, the house, everything, and still start a business. And sometimes without a supportive partner or a supportive environment, often, Moy talks about being a single parent doing this. Can be challenging. So that's in the home front. When it comes to getting access to people to take their ideas seriously, often they're discounted, right? So you need certain partners, or you need to get a supplier or a distributor, whatever it is you need. The ecosystem that you need in your environment is often questioned, right? People are often questioning or downgrading your qualifications and downgrading your capacity immediately, like before you even start. You're facing this need to convince people that as a Black woman, you're capable of this, or you have this, or this idea is going to work. There's a strong stereotype out there, I don't know where it came from, that Black people don't start businesses, right? So yeah, there's a strong in the white, but that's so stupid, because we always started businesses. In fact, if you look at our history, women started the businesses. It's a strong, in the Caribbean, we carry the same thing. On the continent, you'll find the same thing, many of those. So strong business ethics among women. But in this society, sometimes that is not clear to people. So you have to overcome these ideas, these stereotypes, and you have to be prepared going in. That's going to happen. Like, don't even fool yourself, right? Just know that some idiot is going to ask you something ridiculous, and just be calm, answer it, because you remember the goal, right? The goal is you may need them to do something, you may need something from them, you need them to work on your behalf. And so look at the long term, right? I'm not good at that. I'm the one that, like, that's stupid, I'll find somebody else. But I'm just telling you, it's not the best strategy, okay? The best strategy is to decide what you need, and to, as I've gotten old, I've gotten better. But as a young woman, I was not good at that. But I've learned that it is a good skill for the right situation. Banks, getting money, no matter what they want to tell you. So first of all, they put the standards up higher for you to get that loan, and then they put more onerous conditions on you. I also don't think they understand our culture. So oftentimes they won't, you might pool money as a family. They don't want to look at that. They don't understand that we do these things sometimes as a family, right? We're pooling auntie's money and uncle's money and a lot of people coming together. So it may not be something we could earn on our own to get that capital, but we're pooling money and to recognize that as the asset against which. Now, what banks need to always consider, and that's why you need to push them, is the only thing a bank needs to consider is whether you will pay back your loan or not. Number one, that's the only thing. All the other things they ask you is supposed to be to get to that decision. So you bring your own evidence. You pay your rent. You have been conscientious at various things. You challenge them when they say that. You come back at them and you don't allow yourself to be pushed into a situation where you start to doubt yourself. That's another problem. When you start to get these negatives and rejection, there is a tendency for women to very thoughtfully, it's actually a thoughtful thing to reflect on themselves. Bad idea. You need to know that most of this has nothing to do with you as a person. Do not let it undermine your sense of self, your mission, and what it is you're trying to accomplish. Marketing, okay? Number one, let me just say this.
Yeah.
If you don't market, if you don't know how you're going to get your brand, the key selling benefits across to your audience who's trying to buy it, why should they buy your product? Why should they take your service? Not just because you exist, right? But because you are providing something that's going to make their lives better. And you're providing it at a good price, whatever that is, if it's time or money or whatever, that means that this is a great, exchange for them. You need to think carefully. And one of the obstacles you run into is not really clarifying that before you start. So think about marketing. I'll stop there, but
I was just going to say,
I could go on, but I'm going to stop. Stop.
And I do appreciate you are a professor of these things. So, I mean, you teach these things. So we all need to just take one of your classes. Since you did mention banks, the importance of financial literacy. I would like to get all of your viewpoints, 2 minutes apiece. Financial literacy when engaging in entrepreneurship. We'll start with Carol.
So I think the key to success is be prepared. Do your homework. Understand what it is you're trying to achieve. Understand what you need. Know, I'm going to visit the bank manager. Do you know who he is? Do you know what he stands for? Have you met him somewhere else? Are you involved with the community so you could do some networking? Could you talk to somebody else about June? June is the bank manager, and I need to understand, how she deals with things. Be prepared. Go prepared. So when you get to that office, you're starting from a spot of strength. You understand how she thinks. You know what you want, and you're going with, I'm going to get this today. So I think for us, that is key. Another point that I wanted to make is we need to do more transfer of skills and networking and mentorship with like I do a lot with my grandkids. I do a lot with young CEOs. I think we need to do more of that. They're a little bit afraid going to the bank, starting a business, a little bit afraid. Well, no, you have a great idea. You go there with that confidence. You sell it. So we need to help them to understand that your idea is just as good or better maybe than that person sitting opposite you. So I think we need to do more of that to bring our young people along and help with financial skills. And as I said before, financial skills are very important in terms of, for my granddaughter this, I think last week. So you're making a salary. I don't know what the salary is. You got to get money to work for you while you sleep. Learn to invest. Learn to put your money on capital things versus operational things. So while you sleep, it's working for you, not just going to work and getting whatever the number is, $20 an hour, whatever the number is. Invest. So these kinds of techniques, building wealth, we need to help our young people with that. My granddaughter, I told her the other day, she has mortgage to pay and all that. I said, go get a line, so your checks won't bounce, but don't use it unless you need it. Well, guess what? She said, Granny, I did it. It's a protection. Learn how to leverage debt. So those kinds of techniques, I think we need to teach more of our young
Thanks for that. Thanks for that, Carol Moy. Your thoughts on the financial literacy piece.
Certainly, especially as an entrepreneur, so essential. Many of us are so creative. We're great at what we do. We know that necessity is the mother of invention. So we start businesses. And oftentimes, I know the limitations, the societal limitations are there where we are shut out of opportunities. And, they have the erroneous requirements for getting, capital and stuff like that. But oftentimes, and I'm going to say this, we need to take care of our own personal finance first. And so we're lacking the financial literacy. We're going into business and we don't know how to budget and we don't know how to do all the things as it pertains to finances. And then our business end up suffering. And I'm not speaking from an expert point of view. I'm speaking from a person who has experience. And experience does bring wisdom because, again, I started over 20 years ago as it was a necessity, right? And with that being said, that necessity, I wasn't prepared financially, and that does bring many challenges. But eventually you learn, and then you become you try to educate yourself or get the resources. There's lots of them. There are a lot of, even the banks now. The banks are there. They have the, many different courses. There's Coursera. There's all these different things, right? So financial literacy is key, even as it pertains to entrepreneurship on whatever level that you're doing it, because in order for us to really take charge of our own economy, it's not just about making more money. It's about having the financial know-how, how to keep it, how to keep the money, how to invest, to Carol's point, and have your money work for you even while you're sleeping.
Thanks for that, Moy. And thanks for all those amazing BBPA sessions that you moderated that shared a lot of valuable insights and information for many of us who tuned in every Wednesday at noon for a while.
Absolutely. That
Lifetime.
was great.
Financial literacy and the weight
Yeah,
that
so
carries.
yeah, so understanding how credit works is one of the things that I
Credit.
educate my clients, friends, and communities. Most importantly, there are some of my clients that once they get their visa approved, we get the stamp and all of that. I try to walk them through, arrival, what you need to know, because some of these credits are often comes across because we're coming from a culture where you don't do credits, you spend your money, right? What you have is what you spend. And when people get this credit card, you feel like, oh, this is free money. Let me go do this. So I try to make sure to just remind them that don't let the excitement of today, thinking you have access to money, jeopardize your future when you're not ready. And why do I say that from lived experience too, like myself? And I'll still come back to Moy because there was one time I literally had to reach out to her and I told her that, hey, you don't know how much you've inspired me by sharing a bit of your story because I'm working in this line. She has done 20 years. I'm just doing like 11 years. So whatever experience she's talked about, it still resonates with every one of us as we go and journey on this line. Whatever we've experienced is part of that learning that we need to share with people. So understanding how credit works is very important because when people start getting very low on their credit score and all of that, they will not be able to access funding. And when you look at the requirements for funding from the bank, the application is a standard requirement. If you don't meet it, there is nothing about it. And I'll tell you this, like I've gone through several banks because I had an issue that is ongoing, which is about to be clarified again on an error that a bank did on my credit score. For 3 solid years, 7th Laurel Immigration couldn't get funding because of that situation. So you can, even when I had to go through to face, it took time for them to literally, and this is the advantage again, I'm coming back to say, when we have a Black-led organization that has walked through our journey through the path, they would always have a way of advocating. It took Face to take time with me to say, hey, okay, this is it. Let's see the document. But what if there was no Face in the picture, Face Coalition? I will still not get to where I want to be. So nonetheless, long and short, what do I do from my own space, educating people and getting them empowered, making sure how they learn how the credit works, and what banks look at. And then we start with the downloading of the whole borrow well and all of that. So I try to work that well with them. And we also work with non-for-profit organizations, you know, to see what they can do. In our region, Atlantic, here, we have Tribe Network, we have BBI, we also have BBPN, and we work with some of their financial literacy consultants, you know, to bring certain engagement. And again, with TD, we try to work with TD as well. There is this program they run with an external organization that talks about how financial stuffs work. So yeah, that's my, thank you.
Thank you very much. So to wrap it up, I can't believe time has gone so quickly. June, your last, your last thought as we close the conversation.
First of all, I would say that I encourage anybody who think they have what it takes, meaning the passion, the idea, to pursue entrepreneurship. It is one way that you can create wealth, and it's one of the best ways to create wealth. You will create wealth faster for yourself and your family if you can be successful as an entrepreneur. So it is a valuable thing for our communities in terms of wealth creation that we can pass on to our children. So be prepared for be prepared for some of the things we talk about, but it's about planning and about putting the time in, okay? But if you are willing to do that and to recognize that sometimes you'll get some setbacks, we know that successful entrepreneurs, it's never the first time, right? So you know that. So when you fail, you know that. It's the people who persevere, learn from their mistakes, keep, accountability, make sure they're compliant, make sure that they're paying back their loans, all those things. But if you have the passion and you think you got it, I would say,
do it.
Please pursue it.
Do
I may
it.
have to go soon, so I'm just saying goodbye to everyone. And what a pleasure it is to be on a panel. I've learned so much. Oh my goodness. We should
And thank you.
Again. And nice
thank you, June, for calling in from Brazil, no less. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of your stay in Brazil. Carol, your final thought.
I would say believe in your vision. Don't care how many people say that you can't do it. You just hang on to that. I would say strengthen your financial know-how, and don't be afraid of making mistakes. Learn from them. I would also say, if you have a vision and you see as you look out, listen, maybe I should tweak this. Don't be static and stay there. Tweak it. Understand the economic environment, the globe, what's happening in the globe, technology, innovation, all those impact the way we do things. So continuous learning, so you stay abreast of what's happening in today's society. These are things you need to do if you want to run a successful business. You can run a business and it's just, pay the rent, feed me every month, and I struggle. But if you want to grow that business, you want to be a leader, those are some of the things you need to do. You need to be innovative. You need to understand what's happening in the globe.
Thank you very much. Innovate, continuous learning, keep up with the trends and the evolution. Moy.
Yes, so I would say two things. If you're looking to start a business, again, I encourage people to do so. I teach people how to tap into their skills, their giftings, teach them how they can monetize it. But what I do find is that we may be very good at what we do, but we lack the business know-how. So get a coach. Coaching is important. We all need, there are certain things that I'm good at, and there are many things that I'm not good at. And I have coaches for that. Also get community, because the entrepreneurial journey is extremely lonely. And when you start to have many challenges, which you will have, I absolutely love what I do, but it has been challenging to say the least. It's good to have a community of people who mean you well and who are there to support you, to encourage you, and to help to build you up, right? And so that's what I would say. And Yeah, thank you once again, Sarah, and all you amazing panelists. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you very much for emphasizing that the community aspect, even though earlier we talked about, when people steal your ideas, etc. For all those people, there are many more people who support your idea and who will help
Right.
build you up. Last but not least, Olaitan from New Brunswick.
Thank you. I literally documented this before joining, and so please let me try to rush it so that I don't go off the point because it's more of a call to action for all of us. First, I want to thank 100 ABC. Thank you, Sarah, and everybody. So my last thought is for Black women, especially those navigating immigration. The reason I talk more about immigration because I am just like a persona and an ambassador for those women out there. So navigating immigration, motherhood, it could even be trauma because some people from trauma, they develop that passion to talk about something and they build an empire around it, or even systemic barrier. Starting a business it's more than just an economic advancement. It's an act of your finding your voice, your self-worth, your voice, and even in your agency. It makes you do something that is going to inspire others. So I would welcome you and enjoin you to understand the landscape, learn the rules that is applicable to this environment. Leave what you know from your home country just at the port of entry and embrace the new normal, the new reality without losing yourself in it. Welcome inputs from others. Be gentle with yourself. You're building business and also you need your community. And don't forget that their opinion shouldn't change your vision because you got the aha moment, which is the light bulb moment. Don't change your vision because your mentor says so. Try to think and see how it aligns with what you're building. And to those listening who may not relate with my own story directly, it's not just about me. It's about understanding that your journey might be smooth, but you might meet somebody along the way who has shared something that could reflect what I said today. So use that opportunity to give them grace and encourage them to move. Entrepreneurship helped me to find my voice because when I was doing 9 to 5, there was something that I was offering that the workplace didn't understand. I started losing myself. But when I stepped away from full time to running my business, I found my voice again. I became confident. And I think somebody out there might need this kind of freedom to build a legacy that could inspire others. Thank you so much.
That is incredible. Entrepreneurship as a way of finding your voice. I never thought of it that way, but I thank all of you for your incredible insights and really, Moy, I need to get your book. I need to buy your book for sure. And hopefully we'll be back with another conversation about entrepreneurship in the near future. Thank you very much to our audience for tuning in to listen to this conversation, which you can watch again as many times as you want once it's up on our YouTube channel. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Look how far you have come on your own, but never alone. Through the rain and through the shine, here's your moment. It's your time. You stood tall and now you see, standing here.